Hey, what's going on? What's going on? What's going on? I want to welcome you all to the Man to Man Let's Talk Facebook Live show. So grateful that you have decided to join us today. And if you can, please share this video, whether it's on Facebook or YouTube. Share the link because we want everybody to know my neighbor. And my neighbor who I have tonight is Jackie Ward Traweek, an amazing young lady who's doing wonderful things in her community. She's a mom of three, a lover of the Lord, and she has a surprise that she's going to share with us of what she's doing with her business. And I'll just let her tell the story. But she is awesome and amazing. She's also an educator and she loves to educate kids. That's a hint. I usually tell you what this young lady does or what the guest does, but I'm gonna keep that a secret, and I'm gonna let her tell you what she does. Okay, so Jackie Ward Trawick, um, really excited to have her on the show. I want to share a little bit of information with you about Man to Man Let's Talk, which is a men empowerment organization where we identify a safe place. We see the value in who we are and who we belong to, as well as understanding that we all have a responsibility in the area where God has put us. It's important for us to know these things so as men, we can fulfill our responsibilities in the area where God has put us. We do workshops, we do conferences, and we do Man Talk Saturday breakfasts, whether it's Zoom or face to face when everything subsides. The whole point is us getting together to get to know each other, to be the best men that God has created us to be. You know, Man to Man Let's Talk is not only on Facebook, but we also on Instagram. Go to Man Let's Talk. That's at Man to Man Let's Talk. Please follow us there. And please join us on our YouTube channel, Man to Man Let's Talk. You can also go to our website, www.m2mletstalk.com. That's www.m, the number 2m, letstalk.com for more information. Man to Man Let's Talk is flooding the Facebook news feed and information that we're providing on a weekly basis. We start off on Sunday mornings at 9 with a word from the Lord. On Mondays, we have prayer time around 8 o'clock. Wednesdays, we have Hallelujah Hump Day with me and my kids. And Friday, we have Words of Empowerment. So every week, there's something going on where we're sharing some words to inspire and encourage you to be the best that you can be. Now, I know it's Man to Man Let's Talk. That's not excluding the ladies. Ladies, we need you as part in supporting our organization because we're striving to be the best men that God has created us to be. And all we're asking that you do is to share our information, ladies. Share the information. And so the men know that there is a place where they can attend, non judgmental, where we can have a conversation about ways that we can become the best men God created us to be. So just because it's Man to Man Let's Talk don't mean that the women do not play a part. You play a major part in this and directing those men who are searching for an organization like ours. Now, with enough of that as being said, I really want to get to my guest because she has a lot to say and to share with us some great information on how she got to where she is. And again, I'm going to let that be a secret until she tells it. And then we're going to see where it goes from there. So, without further ado, I really, really want you guys to share this video and support my good friend who will be joining us in a few. This is Miss Jackie Traweek. Let's give it up for Miss Jackie Traweek in the building. What's going on, Jackie?
Is everything on correctly?
Yes, everything is on correctly. I'm so glad that you are here. Thank you so much for accepting the invitation.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, I think I'm all about relationships, and I want to share. I would like for you to share with people how we connected because sometimes people just think that things just happen. I like the backstory of how we connected and how we stayed connected, which is very important. So if you could just share how, because this is my neighbor, y'all. I want y'all to know my neighbor, Miss Jackie. So y'all need to know the story of how we connected. Can you share that with her?
Sure. Well, okay. So for years, I've seen your name on Facebook with training stuff. People, and I've always seen your name and never really knew who you were until this summer when my son needed an outlet after all that time of being cooped up for, several months. And you had your little training, endurance and strength and conditioning class. And so my little no limit soldier child, we sent him, and it started with 2 weeks of him saying, I don't want to do that, I don't want to go back, to him adding an extra 2 weeks at the end and going for 6 whole weeks and loving it. And then throughout that time, I'm kind of a professional information finder about people. So I started looking through my Facebook, like, who is this guy? He seems pretty like a pretty cool guy. And so I started looking at the things that you're posting on Facebook, and just about the how can I pray for you posts and just really positive stuff. And I asked a couple of my mom friends, and they're like, oh yeah, he's awesome, Eugene. Yeah. How did you not know about him before this? And I was like, I don't know how I missed this one. And then you invited all of the kiddos that were doing your class, your conditioning and strength things this summer, and to do your vacation Bible school. And every vacation Bible school in East Bernard didn't happen this summer. And so I was like, we are signing up, because, usually we do all of them so we can get all of the Jesus in us over the summer. And we didn't have any of it. And we hadn't been to church, in person in so long. So your the Zoom vacation Bible school was really cool. And so that's just kind of, that relationship formed there, and my kids loved it. And it was the best. Like, I couldn't tell my friends enough how much fun it was, that they were the old school, like, vacation Bible school songs that we grew up listening to. And by the end, all the people at your church were watching my kids in the Zoom, and they were saying, Audrey and Rhett quit fighting with each other and pay attention, so it's like part of the family by the end of it. So it was really fun. And it was kind of a quick connection. So
That's awesome. That is awesome. I remember the first day when Rhett didn't want to work out. He didn't want to do anything. And that day it rained, and we was like, Rhett, you brought the rain, dude. And he was like, yeah. Everybody was like, yeah, Rhett. And that was it, man.
And really we credit that, because he's got a late birthday, and without saying too much about my own kid and embarrassing him on Facebook, kindergarten was like a really big culture shock for him, and just going off. And so that was the first time he kind of meshed with boy kids of his age. He's used to his sister and the preschool kids, but going and doing that camp, we watched over that course of 6 weeks. He grew up so much, and we just really appreciate it. We talked about it every day. Like, we don't recognize this boy from the beginning of camp to the end. And then, so we really just, I was like, whenever you're doing this, sign me up. You can come work him out, in the morning before school if you want to, because he is tired and he's behaving now because he has something to do. So
That's awesome. That's awesome, man. That's awesome. Well, check this out. Um, where exactly, you were talking about this earlier. You're in the East Bernard area, but you didn't originally grow up in East Bernard. So where exactly did you grow up?
I am from one little county away. I'm from Alvin. And so my husband and I, we met our sophomore year of college. So we've been together almost half my life now. But so I started coming to East Bernard, in college. And then once we got married, we moved here. But yeah, I grew up in Alvin, Texas, about an hour, 15 minutes down the road. And and we, I lived there, and I lived in Brazoria County through college. And then once we got married, 10 years ago, we moved here to East Bernard. So we've been here a decade now as a married couple.
Awesome, 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 awesome. So here's a question. We didn't go over this in the beginning, but I wanna just say, I want you to just take your time when you answer this question, uh, because everybody has a definition and a perspective. And this is man to man. Let's talk. I ask men and I ask women this question. So when you think of a man, what would you define a man to be?
A man.
Mm-hmm.
In godly terms or in worldly terms, or either one?
Whatever comes out your mouth.
So to me, a true man is a leader of his pack, a provider, and someone who, I don't know, like I look at my husband, for example, and he is the ultimate. He sacrifices everything. He gives everything he has for our family. He does everything for our family. He leads our family. He's the strength of our family. He's strong. But also we are able to have those like more gentle moments where we can teach our kids things about God, or we can teach our kids things about life. And I always say that, like, there's this good cop and bad cop in our household. And like so much of the time I'm the bad cop. I'm the mean one, because my husband he just takes that role. And so to me, like, he's that ultimate, and he has really great role models too. My father-in-law, and he has an uncle, and then his grandfather that just passed away. They are loyal to a fault, and they are, if they love somebody, they are going to take care of them, and they are going to be dependable. And I don't know, I think that it's really great that my sons have that example, because to me, what a man should be is exactly what we have in our family, which is awesome. So
Amen. That's awesome. That is awesome. Thank you for sharing that. Appreciate it. So tell me this. You are an educator, is that correct?
yes.
So tell me what led you into that position of being an educator.
Well, okay, so we touched on this earlier, but when I was growing up, I said I was going to be a doctor, and I was going to go off to school, and I was going to go to medical school, and I was, or a lawyer or something, really big. And I was not going to live in the country. I was not going to be a teacher or an educator. And I guess, like, as a teenager, I just saw that as below me, and I was not going to ever have a daycare or watch kids, like, so those were just three things that were, like, for sure not on my bucket list. But my sophomore year of high school, so my mom's a teacher. My papa, he was a teacher and a coach for 40 years. And so my sophomore year of high school, my mom recognized in me that, one, I needed something to do in the summer, or maybe it was my freshman year. It's been a while, but one, I needed something to do to keep me busy in the summer, because, teenage daughters and mothers don't exactly hit together all the time. And two, she saw that I always seemed to have this connection with the kiddos in my school that had Down syndrome or autism, and they always sat at the lunch table with me growing up. And my mom saw something in me that I didn't want to see in myself. So she signed me up to work in a preschool program, a summer school class. I was voluntold, you're going to go there every morning, and you're going to be an aide in this class, and you're going to do whatever the teacher wants you to do. And that was the best summer of my life. I loved it. I worked with kiddos that were 2, 3, and 4. They're preschool age kids, always differing special needs. Like, if I close my eyes now, I can still see half those kids, and it was my first big girl grown up type of experience. I had to get up, get dressed every day. I had to go. And so that was the beginning of my teenage years. And I still kind of put it aside. Like, I'm not going to do this with my life. I love working with those people. I was a natural at it, but I didn't want to do it. And so I went off to college. I was early accepted to A&M and all the other colleges. I was in the top 10% of my class my senior year. And I went off to A&M to be biomedical science. And in 6 weeks, I dropped out and I went home. So I had scholarships. And I mean, people may be watching this and they're like, what? We're sending, the story's going to get better, guys, I promise. But I had scholarships, probably 20 grand that semester that I lost all of them. I had early acceptance. I was like the first person in my class to get accepted to A&M. I had the best dorm room, the best roommate. She'd been my friend my whole life, but I got there and it was just wrong. It was wrong for me. I experienced anxiety for the first time in my life, like debilitating. I was crying. I just, and then I was having test anxiety. Like I would know everything to take all these medical tests, and I'd go to these science classes and then I would bomb them. And it was just, I gave up essentially. And looking back, that was a really hard pill to swallow for me. Like, I'm not the best at everything and the brightest, which I was always used to being. But it was a very big blessing because I came home and I regrouped and I got it together. I got my anxiety under control. And I remember at that time, though, I had this little Bible that was given to me when I graduated from high school. And, sometimes my mom said, if you just flip your Bible open, the right words will be there. And so one night I'm just like, my contacts are falling out of my eyes as I'm crying, and I'm in my dorm room, and my roommate, who's been one of my best friends since second grade, is looking at me and not recognize me. And I opened my Bible and it said, I waited for the Lord and he heard my cry. And for years, like anytime I was going through something really heavy, that is where I would turn, the first place I would go. And so I came home and my mom and dad said, get a job. I said, okay. So I got a full-time job for the rest of that semester. And I went to Alvin Community College, and one of my really good friends' moms was the counselor there. And she said, look, you're way too smart to just come back and, take your 12 hours. You're going to make up for lost time, and you need to figure out what you want to be. And then you'll know you're doing the right thing. And so I got to Alvin Community College and I took 18 hours in child development classes and hit the ground running from there. I still graduated in 3 years, and I got my degree from U of H Clear Lake in special education. And it was just right. It was the right fit. And so I tried to deny all those years that God had made me this educator. And it's what I am to the bone, And so I got out of that program, loved it. I loved it. And I went and I taught in the district I grew up in at E.C. Mason Elementary. And it was like the Disney World of elementary schools. And I taught life skills, kindergarten through fifth grade, 21 years old, had a class. There was an aide in my class that had been there longer than I had been alive. She had been in that classroom. And so it was interesting, and that was a lot, but I never felt like I was in the wrong place. And then when we got married and we moved here, there were a couple years of struggle in my journey as an educator, just because I taught regular ed for a little bit and it wasn't my favorite. Got back in special ed and loved it. And then I ended up having babies and staying home for a little bit. And then what I do now came about 6 years ago. So, all those times that I thought, I don't need to be an educator, God said, hold on, sister. I have a better plan for you. So here I am.
Yeah. That's awesome. That is awesome. That, the times where you was at home, and I think this is kind of like where maybe the light bulb might have went off and you saw that there was a need as far as the daycare is concerned. What was it that hit and you said, I'm going to go on and just do this because you had the vision or something to be able to move forward with it. Tell us a little bit about that and how that took place.
So after teaching for a little while, I had my first child, and this is very rural where we live. And once I had her, I didn't want to have to commute every day and be away from her, so I stayed home. And there was a time where 2015, 2016, and we thought it was bad then, but fast forward to 2020. But there was a time where my husband worked in the oil field and things were just not looking good. And every day he was coming home from work going, honey, I know you like to be at home, but you're going to have to think about going back to work. And just the thought of going back to teaching at that time and leaving my babies, and it was every day I just prayed, like, God, please let me be okay with going back to work. It wasn't even, please let me be okay with teaching. It was just doing something. And one day, I lived in town back then. One day I was walking down the street, and there was a woman, Kathy Andrash, who had a preschool for 30 years. And her kids were out at recess. And she said, hey, come here. And my daughter was on her list for preschool. And she called me over and she said, I'm thinking about retiring. I heard that you were interested in starting preschool. And I said, no, not at all. That is not me. You must have heard the wrong person. She said, think about it a little bit. So I went home and I freaked out, because that's what I do. I totally freak out whenever something big comes my way initially. And my husband said, let's do it. And I was like, whoa, we need more information than this. So I prayed about it a lot, and I'd go for my walks, and she was my neighbor, so she'd still be there. And it just turned out that it worked out where she wanted to transition out of being a preschool lady. And I worked with her in her building for a year. And in that meantime, we sold our house like overnight, and we went and we lived on the highway in this old rundown farmhouse. I mean, our neighbors were cows, that was it. And we coexisted with mice. It was the hardest year because we sold everything. And then we started building the barndominium to start the preschool. And so initially my husband will laugh because he says, there were plans. And initially we had built this barndominium to live in for a few years and then expand the whole thing into a preschool. But I enjoyed living here too much. So we started the preschool program, and I knew that I wanted to be something that Kathy did really well. The woman who I worked with was she prepared kiddos for kindergarten, but she didn't just prepare them academically. She prepared them as human beings to go be in this public school system and kind of be leaders and good kids. And whenever I worked with her, we prayed every day before we ate. We always said the Our Father prayer during our circle time. And that was something that when I had taught in public school before, I didn't get to do all that. And so I was like, this is, I can do this. I love this. And this is kind of like when I taught life skills, and I could kind of set my pace of what I want to teach. And it was kind of along the same level of what I was teaching in life skills, because even though it was older kiddos, they were kind of about the preschool level. So I was familiar with that. And then whenever I started my own program, I wanted to make sure that I was, hot, fresh meals for my kids, and lots of pouring into them, teaching them Bible stories, and also the academics and the social and emotional stuff, that is so much more important than learning the ABCs, and just the whole child, not just what are they checking the boxes on for their academics. And so we're 6 years in to this preschool adventure, experiment, whatever you want to call it. And I mean, this year has definitely been an interesting one, but we're loving it. And we love these babies, and they're my little chickens, and it's a lot of fun. So
That's awesome. That is awesome. What is the challenge? One of the challenges, because I know there's many challenges, from a daycare in the country and a daycare in the city.
So luckily at the daycare in the country, the biggest challenge is probably making sure that the little boys are pottying inside and using the bathroom and not outside, you know, and keeping the shoes on. And, you know, but there is a hard, I guess the hardest part of this situation we're in right now, which will be changing soon, and we'll talk about that later, is that it's built into my home. And so while we have a lot of freedom out here, you know, a lot of space, a lot of fresh air, it's still part of my house. So sometimes it's hard to shut off that, you know, work. And for years, on the weekends, we didn't even come into this room. I'm kind of better about it now, or I'm not so crazy. My kids would be like, Mom, we have all this cool stuff and we can't even go in there when you're not open, you know? But, so that's a challenging part. But honestly, living out here in the country, you know, the families are different. They're supportive. They get it. They want their kids to be out getting dirty, and, you know, and so we love that. I love that I'm able to it's kind of like life as it was a long time ago. You know, they're getting the old fashioned kind of growing up, which is really fun. And I guess maybe, you know, if we were in the city, we'd have a lot more guidelines and stricter regulations and things. Excuse me. But I don't know. I would still try to put a little of that Texas barefoot kid into it too. So.
Absolutely. So has it been a struggle or a greater challenge dealing with the pandemic, what we've been going through as far as the health guidelines are concerned?
So what a lot of people don't realize is on March 7th or whenever, let me look at my calendar here, we left for spring break, and then the public schools pretty much didn't open back up. And so superintendents, and which I have a really great relationship with public school, because we just, in this town, everybody kind of flows together. But administration and public school settings had a little bit more information, but in East Bernard, in the daycare setting, we don't have a health department that we can call. When we're initially getting our licensing, and we say, like, we called it the county and say, we need the health department to come out. They kind of laugh at you and they're like, I'm sorry, what is that? And so we were kind of like, starting from March on, any daycare that was still operating was told to clean a lot, treat it like it's flu season. But we didn't get any guidelines from the state of Texas, who licenses us heavily. We have 300 pages of licensing on a normal day. And we didn't get any information from them until June. So it was like scrambling to figure out, first of all, you know, at the beginning, we were all going, what even is this? And second, do we close? Do we stay open? Where do we get supplies? And, you know, that's just kind of when I hit my knees and said, okay, God, if I'm going to stay open, I'm going to be needing you to carry me and help me get through this. And I will say that that's probably the most stressed I have been in a long time, but I kind of function better on that problem solving setting. And so we just figured it out. We took it day by day, and I was able to stay open from March, excuse me, my throat's getting dry, from March all the way to June. We never closed. We were able to stay open for our first responder parents. We have a lot of parents in agriculture, and we have a lot of parents who last year were police officers. And actually one of the siblings of one of my kids was displaced. So we ended up picking up a first grader, and we just kind of made it work. And then I was really blessed because over the summer, I got to take a break and kind of regroup, look at how I wanted this year to go. And so this year's been a challenge too, since school started. I mean, just keeping up with guidelines changing, but luckily now we can get more supplies, you know, as of now. And so the supply isn't terrible. my helpers are more comfortable. My parents are really great. And my kids are they're really, resilient. And so it's been good, but for a while, it was very, very touchy and very stressful. Yeah.
Interesting. So, through all those things that you were going through, you never stopped. You stayed the course, and you are where you are today because of that. It's not like you couldn't continue on functioning. I love how you said you immediately went to God and, asked God to be able to help you through this ordeal. And it was God who led you to where you are right now. And so it's so amazing how God operates through this whole ordeal. Um, I'm just kind of putting it all together that is what the atmosphere and the teaching, not solely teaching, but what your preschool is all about in reference to godly principles. Am I correct on that?
Yes. Can I pause for just a second?
Oh, absolutely. Take your time. And so, there's so many things through this whole process where we overlook God who is leading us and through so many things. And here it is with Jackie that we see that she didn't want to become a preschool individual with a daycare and dealing with the kids. She had plans to become a doctor or another profession, but she God had plans for her to be where she is today. Now that's like you and me, as we think about where we are in our life. It's important for us to know that it's okay to have plans, but the key thing is to make sure that our plans are the same plans as God, because every tree, every blade of grass, every insect, every animal has a purpose, and God created those things, and so God has created us also. So we
Sorry.
have to recognize that we do have a purpose as well. And that's why we're talking with Jackie, and she's sharing with us the purpose that God has put in her and how she's allowing God to be the forefront of her life and in her business. Is that right?
Yeah. Sorry about that.
That's
I got
okay.
my throat got dry because I was talking so much. Like once it starts, it doesn't stop. Anyway, promise it's just a dry throat. But
It's okay. It's okay.
um, so yeah, so now are we talking about where we're going from here, or?
We're talking about how God is like the forefront of everything that you're doing, and you're able to implement those principles in your day in your preschool because you probably couldn't do this in public schools. Is that correct?
Right, right. And I'm a huge fan of the public school system, but I'm really blessed that I get to talk about Jesus every day and what I do now. And I think it's really great that we have this opportunity when they're babies at the level I have them at. Some of them I have them 2 years, some I have 3 years, where we get that strong foundation. So when they go off to public school where there is a separation, they can continue those principles into their life and maybe share it with their friends that haven't gotten to have that experience of learning about God or learning about being, grateful or thankful or, all the things that we talk about every day. And just setting a good example in the community starts with these babies that these parents are trusting me with. And so it's a big, huge thing to be given somebody's child. Some of them I have 5 days a week. And for a parent to say, I trust you with my baby, and I'm buying into what you're selling. And so for me, that's such a huge, not a weight, more of a huge blessing, but also big responsibility that I've got to help mold these kiddos. You know, your parents are your first people that shape your faith journey and get you, you know, as a human being to whoever you're going to be. But you know, parents are working and I'm working, and I'm just blessed that this is what I get to be doing. So my own children are here with me in their first several years. I have 3 kiddos, but I also get to help other people's babies, you know, and help the parents in that journey of introducing their kids. And honestly, I get more time during the day than what probably most parents get with their kids to sit down and have those conversations about, you know, being a good person and talking to Jesus and praying. And it's really sweet that one of my favorite things that parents always say every single year when I get a new kid, they'll say, "What's that prayer that you say before you eat?" And so we always say the Catholic prayer. And I always tell them, you don't have to do the sign of the cross if that's not what you do in your house, but if you want to say it, it doesn't hurt you, you know. And so bless us, O Lord, and these thy gifts, and we say our whole prayer. And when we're done, I always say, "Now you may eat." So they go home and they say their prayer, "Bless us, O Lord, blah, 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 blah. Now you may eat." And their parents are like, "We can't get them to stop saying now you may eat." And I'm like, "I'm sorry, it's routine. We do it every day for breakfast. We do it for lunch." And so that's just been a really great, fun, and just, I don't know, just a really awesome part of what I get to do. And as long as I'm doing this, we will always talk to God every day in the classroom, because it's important.
Absolutely. Yeah, that is so important across the board in everything that we do. And we see a lot of the problems in the school system, in the workplace, you know, and just businesses in general. If God is not in there, you know, the problems are going to be exposed tenfold. But when God is in the midst of it all, you know that there are problems, but you won't see it as much as you would see in a place without God, because, you know, God's presence is bigger than the problem, you know. And so what you're doing is awesome, because knowing the fact that it's God oriented, is nowhere but to go, but up. You know, people say sky is the limit. I disagree with that. I think heaven is the limit.
Right?
Absolutely, absolutely. So, in your journey from school and you know, getting back to working in public education, you never thought you would see yourself as an entrepreneur, did you?
No. I mean, looking back, the pieces were all there. Like, I was that kid in high school that was in 17 different organizations and the president or vice president of all of them, you know. But once I got out of high school and I was a little fish in a big, you know, sea, I just never thought, when I was teaching, I never thought about it. And even when I started this gig, I was like, I'll do it for a few years, and then who knows, maybe I'll go back to being a stay-at-home mom. Yeah, right. I could never do that again. You know, I can't sit still long enough. And so each year I've just kind of wanted to make it better and make it better and make it grow. And 2020 has been really interesting as an entrepreneur, because I've had to, basically anybody who's owned a small business in this time has had to collaborate and reach out and find other people who are doing it, who are doing well, who are positive. And in East Bernard, we seem to have a lot of really great entrepreneurs. I guess maybe it's just a small town because we don't have the big industry here. So if we see a need, like, hey, let's do that, you know? And so there's a lot of great people that I would say are around the ages of 30 to 50 who, and women too, who we've kind of just like stuck together over this last 8-9 months. And it's kind of made it more exciting and fun to own a business. Now, it's not something I ever thought, I'm going to be an entrepreneur. I'm going to start this business and then I'm going to make it bigger and I'm going to grow. And here we are.
Yeah, that's awesome. And the same thing on my end, you know, I you know, I guess the things that I was around, I really didn't see a lot of entrepreneurs. It wasn't encouraged in my environment as much, and in Louisiana. And then when I came over to Texas, then it was a different world, and I saw things, and I was like, wait a minute, you know, when I was working at one place, and we all got a chance to see the president of that organization, I was like, I said, this guy runs this whole place. I said, I want to see what that feels like.
Yeah, I could be
And
that guy.
yeah, exactly. And then that's where it all started. And then some encouraging words from a coworker of mine who encouraged me to go get certified as a trainer. I went to go do that, and I realized working at a gym wasn't my thing because I wanted to make 100% of my profit. I didn't want to share it, and so the rest is history. But definitely wasn't on my radar, you know, becoming an entrepreneur. I wanted to become a physical therapist, but God had a different plan.
Sure. And I mean, you're still just like me with, you know, going from all that struggle and then becoming a special ed teacher. And now I'm looking back going, I'm not even a special ed teacher anymore. And I'm getting a master. By the way, I started a master's degree earlier this spring before I knew that I was going to end up growing, you know, the preschool later on. And so I'm also working on that. But it's like, I'm constantly going, well, what about that dream? But it's like, okay, God's put this other dream in my path too. And why can't I do both? You know, I've got my family support and I've got this, you know, drive given to me by God. So might as well see what you can do with it.
Absolutely. You know, while you were saying that, I'm sitting there thinking, I'm like, you know, we have dreams, but God has a purpose.
Right.
And so it's all about what we accept, and the purpose is definitely greater than the dream. And it's up to us to be able to accept it or not. And you know, looks like you and I have accepted the purpose that God has put on our heart, because we're nowhere even. I ain't gonna say we're not even close, but we're not where we thought that we would be, but we are where we need to be.
Sure. Definitely.
So what would you share with an individual who was where you were when it came to should I or shouldn't I pursue what I'm eat, breathing, and sleeping to an extent, but I'm working another job, but I really want to step out and to give it a try. What would you share with those individuals who are listening and they're kind of on the fence of stepping out on faith like you did?
I think that, ooh, that's a tough one. But something I did was I sat down and I made myself a list. If I don't do this, what's my life going to look like? If I do this, best case scenario, what's it going to end up looking like? Worst case scenario. The best and the worst case were still better than the if I don't do this. And if you're struggling, but you're trying something, isn't it worth it? You know, you can always reinvent yourself. You can always recreate. But if you don't go for that dream or that drive, then you're just not going to go for it. It's just not going to happen. And so there's a lot of risk involved in stepping out of your comfort zone. But there's a lot of reward too. And when you decide to go off and, you know, start your business or train on your own, or like, you know, I started my preschool and, you know, we just bought the house and we're about to build onto the preschool and have 3 classrooms instead of 1. And it's very overwhelming, when you first look at that. But can you live with yourself if you're still where you are right now in 5 years? Like, if you don't change anything about what you're doing, can you live with that in 5 years that you're still doing that? And for my husband and I, we're always saying, no, if we can't live with that, then we know there's another purpose. And it's really scary to jump out there and do something different, but it's a lot scarier for us to think in 5 or 10 years, we may just be standing still. So God kind of will help you, push you out the door. And that doesn't mean that everything's going to be easy, because there's been a lot of hard, and there will be a lot of hard, and there's still a lot of hard going, with what I do and with what anybody chooses to do when they follow, something. But just be prepared for the hard, but know that it's going to be worth it. And whenever it gets too hard, just get down on your knees and say, what's next? Where are we going with this? Because God, he may not answer you in the way that you want him to, but he's going to answer you somehow. And it's going to, his plan is going to come out if you just trust it.
Amen. That's awesome. That is awesome. I'm sure that those individuals who are looking at this right now, that give them something to meditate on. And, as they lay their head down to rest and wake up in the morning, hopefully they're still thinking about it, and to be able to pursue that and knowing that God is with them always. And that's the key thing about it. The world creates an atmosphere where things are easy. If it's not easy, then it's not right. And there's nobody in the Bible that we read about that had it easy. So the same thing applies to us. And just knowing that we're either going to do it with God or we're going to do it without God. That's the key thing through the whole process. So definitely excited that you decided to do it with God, and there's nothing but blessings on top of blessings on top of blessings, for you and the people who will be a part of the journey. So that's awesome. I'm excited for you. So tell me this, what is the name? Let's get the name of the business out there.
So right now we are Little Brahma Barn. Oh, everybody says the LBB for short. So if you hear somebody talk about the LBB, that's us. But next year we are transitioning we just bought a little house from the 1940s, and we are going to start renovations. Funtner Custom Homes is going to start, and he actually called me today. In 2 weeks, we're going to upgrade it, start updating it. And so for next school year, we will become the Little Brahma Barn Preschool and Early Learning Center. So I'll be able to have 3 classrooms, like younger toddlers, preschoolers, and pre-kinders, like what I do now. And so it's been a big leap of faith, especially with this crazy year where most, there was a point in the year where there were only 20% of daycare businesses were open. Unfortunately, we had one in town that it was, coronavirus was just a lot on the bottom line of the operations, and I get it. And so, but, in difficult times, there's also great opportunity if you want to do the work. And so we are really excited to be growing. We'll be right down the street from my kids' school. And so Audrey and Rhett, my school age kids, can ride their bikes, to and from the house in town. And it's still a little, we're still a country town. So something that I always have fought with my inner struggle was, I don't want people to get there to the new place and say, it's just not the same. And so I know it can't be exactly the same. Like, there's not going to be a cow walking around like there is at our house now, but the kids are going to still be bare feet. We're going to still serve hot, fresh meals. We're going to talk about Jesus, and we're going to get them ready for kindergarten. And, when they act like turkeys, we're going to have high expectations of their behavior. And so I'm in the process of praying for my future staff and really working on that vision of getting people that are, have that same vision as I do for what we want for our kids of this community, to be exposed to prior to going off to big school and, being a part of the mix. And we are really lucky where we have a very God-centered community. So it's not like we're throwing them to the wolves when we send them out into public schools. There's still a lot of Jesus loving things that happen in East Bernard, which is a huge blessing because, they see their principals at church, and they see their administrators at church functions and things in that nature. But at the same time, at the Early Learning Center, they'll get, some of them may be with me for 4 years, 3 or 4 years before they get off to kindergarten. So it's really fun. I'm really looking forward to building more relationships with more families in a positive way.
That's awesome. That is awesome. So long term, you already expanded. Where does the vision take you to where it's like, okay, I'm here? I know it's kind of hard to say that because we're always progressive in our mindset, but at what point, like when you work in the next level of what you're doing right now, to where you say, okay, I want to move to this level, and this right here, I'm gonna plant my seed here for a little while when it looks like X, Y, and Z. Have you thought about that yet?
It's a really good question. And I like to tell myself that nothing is forever because it gives me anxiety to think, okay, I'm going to do this for the next 30 years because I know that's not who I am. But I want to establish great foundations, and it's going to be a lot of work at this new place. And so, I've got a kiddo who he will be in kindergarten in a few years. And I think we're just going to take it as it comes. And I think for me, success in this endeavor will mean that my husband and I always disagree on this a little bit. So if he watches this, he's going to give me the eye roll. But I really love to give my money away to causes. And so for me, success will be whenever I can just give away all the money that I want to be able to give away to others and still be able to, function at home without my husband going, okay, you've got to stop writing checks to the school, or you've got to stop. We donate to everything and we're not rich people. So I guess for me, just like being I don't know, my grandma just was the same way. And it just gives me this inside my heart joy to be able to give. And so, the shirt off my back, etc. But for me, that success of this will be, kids that are happy and healthy, and then me being able to be at a point financially where we can never have to say no when somebody needs something, whether it be family or community events or whatever, for me, that's really important.
That's awesome. I mean, I'm right there with you. That's part of the reason why my organization exists. There were some things that I saw that really moved me, and I said I want to be in a position to be able to give without even questioning to the fullest. And plus, we can't take it with us anyway, so why wouldn't we give? You know what I'm saying?
For sure.
So I think that's a great thing, and we're just going to continue to let God lead us in that area, and he knows what's already set in front of us anyway. We just got to catch up with him. And so hopefully, if it's God's will for us to be in that position, then we'll be able to use the money for what it is, and that's a tool to be able to help one another.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
Yeah. So man, this has been fantastic. I appreciate you so much. You left a lot of nuggets for me and for our audience, to take away, and if they want to support LBB, I think that is awesome. Little Brahma Barn.
If you're gonna be around East Bernard, you gotta say it correctly. You gotta say Brahma.
Yeah, I know. I use Louisiana as a crutch. For Louisiana.
It's okay. My parents say Brahma. They live down the road in Hallettsville, and they call us the Brahmas. And I'm like, Mom and Dad, you can't say that out loud when you're in public here. You have to say Brahma.
Little Brahma Barn. So yeah. So listen, I appreciate everything that you're doing, and I would love for people to follow all the great stuff that you're doing. Can you share your socials, anything that you would like people to follow you and Little Bramer Barn on your socials?
Okay, well, I have let's see. I do have one. Let me find my little handle. The only place that I use social media for business reasons is Instagram. And part of that is just because I don't feel like Facebook, when I work with children, and for me, it's just not private enough. And so I never show faces. But we do have an Instagram page called Funny Little Chickens.
Mm-hmm.
I try to share a lot of inspiring things. And it really started because preschoolers are hilarious. And so you get nuggets of funny things that they say throughout the day or do. And it has activities that we do. And so I don't have a website for the business specifically. And I guess as I grow, maybe that will be a growing pain that I'll have to resolve. Like maybe it's time. But let me find my little handle, make sure I do it right. Instagram changed all of everything this last week. So, okay, so it's funny underscore, and I'll show you. It's going to be backwards, I think, but we'll see if Zoom.
We'll see if Zoom put it on right.
So if you ever.
Perfect.
It's backwards. Is it backwards or forwards?
It's forwards. It's good.
Oh, okay. For me, it's backwards. Cool. Okay, so Funny Little Chickens. And so that's where, I mean, that is where all the good fun things that we're doing is at. And then, you know, parents, if they ever want to contact me, they can look me up on the registry. All the childcare services are listed. And pretty soon, whenever we start our expanding, I will probably, most people around here figure out how to contact me, but I'll start putting out flyers and more information, but we'll cross that bridge when we get there.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, man, I thank you so much, Jackie, for taking the time and sharing your vision, sharing your story with us. And I know that, you know, there'll be people who will be impacted by that. So I thank you so much. And hopefully, if everything goes well, you know, maybe 3 months from now, we can follow up and see where you are on the expansion. Would you like to do that?
I'll give you a tour of the new place.
That'd be sweet.
Have a social media tour. It'll be like Fixer Upper.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Yeah, that'll be awesome. That will be awesome. So thank you so much. And well, what we're gonna do, I'm gonna go ahead. I'm gonna get you back in our area, and then we're gonna close out, and I'll rejoin you. And you know, as soon as we close up, is that okay?
Sounds good.
Well, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. All right. All right. Guys, thank you so much for joining us on the Man to Man Let's Talk Facebook Live show. You heard it from my friend Jackie, who's doing great things in East Bernard with Little Bramer Barn. Man, it is awesome. It is awesome. All the great things that she's doing. Really excited, real pumped up. And let's continue to pray for her and what she's doing. And if you want to support, or if you had any ideas of the things that she's doing and things you want to do in reference to daycare, preschool, there you go. There's your resource right there. You can contact her. And just know that she's where she is, not because she chose it, but God chose her to do it. So just know that we all have a dream, but God has a purpose for us. And it's up to us to be able to catch up with the purpose that God has in store for us. Let's not miss that opportunity. All right. So let's continue to pray for her and that her success and expansion will be great. And we're going to follow up with her and chat with her again and see where she is in 2021, if it's the Lord's will. It's Man to Man Let's Talk Facebook Live show. You got Man to Man Let's Talk here to help any men, any males who are looking for a safe place to have a discussion, because this is what this is all about. And it's not just about men, it's about everybody, to be able to be a resource to everybody who is in need and help. And our goal is to have a huge amount of men of diverse backgrounds for us to come together and to be able to help one another in a way to where God gets the glory. So that's the only thing that matters. So, men, I encourage you to connect with our organization. There's no fees, there's no membership. It's just us connecting as human beings and having conversations that will help us become the best that God has created us to be. See these men in the back here? These men sacrificed the time to be at our conference, and you can do the same as well. We're doing it on Zoom right now, but later on we'll be back in the building and we'll be doing great things together where we can shake hands and give hugs. So anyway, that's Man to Man Let's Talk. Again, I thank you guys so much for your support. I ask that you please share the video. I ask that you please share the link, and just know that your share just might save somebody's soul. It may save a life, and it's that important. So please, by all means, continue to do everything that you can to pray for our organization, pray for us as males, pray for us as men, and that we're able to do what God has designed for us to do. Go to www.m2mletstalk.com for more information, and just know that it's important for us to stay focused, stay in our lane so we can stay the course. And in order for us to be great, look, we must communicate because God has a purpose for you like he does for me. So there's really no need for us to compete. You know, God has created enough air for us to breathe. So there's enough blessings for us to receive. And ask yourself this question on a daily basis and all the things that you do. If God is not in your answer, then why are you doing it? Keep those things in mind as you lay your head down to rest tonight. And when you wake up in the morning, you ask yourself those questions. And remember, in all that you do, go out there and make God proud. All right. Man to Man, Let's Talk Facebook Live show. It's all about getting to know our neighbor. Jackie was our neighbor today. And we'll spend some time so we can know our next neighbor, whoever that may be. But we hope that you will join us. All right. So I love you guys. And I look forward to seeing you soon. Man to Man, let's talk.